Então, queres partilhar o screen do vídeo?
Sim, mas
E assim fica...
só quero o vídeo no screen, sem ninguém. Todos querem fora. Então é remove. Não. Vai para a cara dele. Vai para a cara. Remove.
Ah, ok. Passei do...
Remove, sim. Remove. So, just in case, and remove all the cameras too. Remove that.
Temos aqui uma... Isto aqui... Também não consigo...
Maybe you can scroll. Two fingers.
Yeah. That's the answer. No, stop.
Add the screen. Well, no. Okay, good. He's on board.
Ok. Isto aqui...
No, don't. He turned off his camera.
Ok. Fazemos aqui remove nós também.
Yeah. We can say hello. Hello? Jamal Ware? Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello. Good morning from Washington, D.C. This is Jamal Ware.
Tem som aí? I'm just going to do a sound check here. If you can hear me, give me a wave, Jamal, please. Oh, wonderful. We're going to get your voice. Hopefully, we'll get your voice on here as well. There we go.
Can you hear me at all or no?
Yeah. Now we're good. So
good.
All right, so we're going to take you off the screen, and so we remove the logos to put on the video because there's logos on the video already.
You want to put the logos?
No, remove them.
Okay.
So now we put on the video. Share screen. And there we go. We're gonna have to get rid of.
Okay.
There's something on there. It's difficult to kind of know where the cursor is. Tap it twice. Get it big. Eesh, that's got to be wrong. So.
Estamos com problemas de som agora, perdemos.
I wanted to basically just share the screen.
Já estamos a fazer share screen, mas o som
Talvez. Segunda vez. Vocês têm aqui uma qualidade essencial.
Estamos ao vivo.
É.
Sim, estamos ao vivo, não podemos.
Queria perguntar se há um minuto de segurança. Ok, certo. Exato. Português ou inglês?
Já fazer português e inglês.
Português?
Português e inglês.
Vai ser português e inglês.
Não parece?
Já podes falar?
Isso.
Já. Isso não todos.
Is he here?
He's here.
Se largamos, não é nada mesmo.
No one here, dude.
Já fiz bué. Já fiz. Bué. Já fiz. Essa falar inglês, não, essa daí tá bom, vira para produzir inglês. Mas agora a questão é. Tá no bom. Não, não se preocupe, vai meninas. Tá bom. Pãozinho, no visu. Chama o visu. O que já estava pronto para ele, eu construí um eu segurava na mão dela, ela eu segurei na mão. Eu peguei o microfone, eu fiquei na direção sim, eu disse, olha, vamos no fim, só para mim. Faz de conta que estás a fazer a coisa para mim. É uma coisa que a coisa feliz é ninguém. Você vai conseguir.
Yeah, exactly. Compreendo.
Peraí, calhar. Quem escreveu o fim, pá? Será que vamos ver bem, doutora?
Exatamente. Vai anunciar? Sim. Aliás, vamos checar, deixa lá, Tu me mandaste uma mensagem, assim no Facebook. Yeah. É assim, irmão. Vou dizer como é que eu sou uma instituição de trabalho. Eu não gosto de estar a excluir os assuntos internos das instituições. Quando nós temos um financiamento para o órgão, por exemplo, digamos, os registros com quem nós trabalhamos constantemente, nós deixamos que o sindicato faça a mesma escolha da pessoa que vai participar. Contacto os órgãos, eles identificam quem pode participar. Acabamos agora, há uma semana uma formação sobre o jornalismo online e o impacto que tem o Covid-19. E quem escolheu os jornalistas foi o sindicato e os órgãos de comunicação social. Seria bom, por ser uma instituição local, que contactasse, ficasse mais ligado ao sindicato. Quando nós, eventualmente, temos um financiamento a vocês, só vocês também vão ter esta mesma abertura de convidar os jornalistas. Sim. Não, é que reclamou, eles convidam para participar, então eu respondi. Não, eu geralmente todos os jornalistas vocês são tão filiados ao sindicato, os vossos membros. Exatamente. Porque geralmente quando são filiados ao sindicato são também convidados. Deixar o sindicato e depois tem a missão de selecionar será que não é uma falta de maior representação e o sindicato. Pois o Teixeira Cândido sempre diferente que eles fazem um convite de forma aberta para várias instituições. Inclusive algumas instituições nem sequer para dar o seu trabalho de mandar as pessoas. Mas de qualquer forma, vamos continuar a conversar. Eu insisti no meu WhatsApp ou no meu Facebook. Falamos sobre isso. Só para ver o que E uma outra coisa que nós podemos fazer é realizar uma informação para todos os membros da associação, porque nós às vezes trazemos cá especialistas que lidam com comunicação, termos gerais, não só termos geral de geral, mas comunicação, publicidade social, por exemplo, fazer dar palestras, essas coisas. Vamos fazer isso nessa altura.
Excellency Minister of Industry and Commerce of Angola, Mr. Vitor Fernandes, Excellency Charles I of United States Embassy in Angola, Mr. Greg Seegers, Excellency Mr. Pedro Rodrigo, President of AmCham-Angola, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the US Exim seminar and AIPEX-SelectUSA sign of partnership. We would like to start with the safety moment that will be held by one of the representatives of this hotel that will guide us through the safety moment. Your attention, please.
Boa tarde a todos, bem-vindos ao AIPEX-SelectUSA. Vamos dar início ao nosso minuto de segurança. Para a vossa localização, encontramos no piso menos 2, sala Angola, e em caso de evacuação deverão utilizar as portas devidamente assinaladas para o efeito, que vão dar para os vossos pontos de encontro que estão situados na parte frontal do hotel e pelas traseiras pela rua Reiazinha. Não está previsto qualquer simulacro dos vossos equipamentos de segurança, portanto, caso acione algum toque de evacuação, considerem-no real. Muito obrigado, boa tarde, bom evento.
Desculpe, pertence a algum meio de comunicação social?
Eu?
É da Embaixada Americana?
Well, we will proceed. Now is the moment for the speech by the President of the American Chamber of Commerce in Angola, Mr. Pedro Rodrigo. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please to Mr. Pedro Rodrigo's speech. But it is also important to thank our sponsors that made this event possible. We are talking about some companies that made this moment possible. We are talking about Banco BIC, Chevron, Banco BNI, PwC, Standard Bank, Angola, and Grupo BIC Vasquez. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention to Mr. Pedro Rodrigo, President of AmCham-Angola, speech.
Excellency Minister of Industry and Commerce, Mr. Vitor Fernandes, Excellency Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Global Market and Director General of the U.S. and Foreign Commercial Service, Mr. Ian Staff, Excellency Ambassador of the Republic of Angola in Washington, D.C., Joaquim Espírito Santos, Mr. Everett Mackay, Commercial Officer at the U.S. Commercial Service, Mr. Antonio Henriques da Silva, President of AIPEX, Mr. Jamal Aware, Senior Advisor, Officer of the Chairman of U.S. Exim and Principal, members of the AmCham-Angola, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I must say good afternoon to all those who courageously set out to physically be here with us. To all the distinguished participants in Washington, D.C., who are virtually connected to us here in LUANDA, Angola. I would like to extend a warm welcome as well as wish you all a very good morning. A warm and generous hello to all those who are joining us on YouTube from each and every corner of the world. On behalf of the American Chamber of Commerce in Angola, AmCham, I am delighted to be here in the midst of such an excellent gathering of people. This is the first organized event that AmCham is hosting, which secures with the luxury of physical presence since COVID-19 has modified the way we actually conduct business. Now that I possess a bona fide opportunity to speak openly and directly to you in this midst of this global pandemic, the confession I wish to make at this time is not only heartfelt, but it is plain and filled with a profusion of gratitude. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for actually showing up. Thank you for responsibly asserting yourself to ensure that we all came together today, the United States of America and the Republic of Angola. In these demanding moments in time, and it is in this spirit that we are here today. We want to witness the signing of a participatory agreement between AIPEX and SelectUSA. We also possess the privilege of having the regional director of the Export-Import Bank of the United States of America on the African continent to give us a presentation about the tools and the mechanisms that can be utilized to support business and finance American export. Ms. Angiuoni will be unveiling and outlining the particular of these. I would like to recognize as well as extend a warm welcome to all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Pedro, President of AmCham-Angola. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please for the speech of Mr. Greg Sears, Charge d'Affaires of the United States Embassy in Angola.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency Victor Fernandez, Minister of Industry and Commerce of the Republic of Angola, Pedro Godinho, President of AmCham-Angola, Engineer Antonio Henriques da Silva, Chairman of the Board of the Angolan Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, Assistant Secretary in Staff of the Department of Commerce, Ambassador Joaquim Espiritu Santo. It is a pleasure for me to be here with all of you, both in person here in LUANDA, as well as those of you who are joining us from Washington. I'm also happy to be here this afternoon in what many have been calling the new normal. This meeting certainly does not look like it would have at the beginning of this year. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Industry and Trade, AIPEX, and AmCham-Angola for organizing this this event along with us at the U.S. Embassy, and I applaud all of you for your efforts in remaining focused on our mission to develop and diversify the economy and promote bilateral trade and investment. Today's event is intended to provide greater understanding of U.S. Exim Bank products and services to support U.S. exports and highlight official investment cooperation between SelectUSA and AIPEX. I'd also like to acknowledge the Angolan government's efforts in the fight against COVID-19 and to commend the frontline healthcare and public health workers who are putting themselves at great risk for contracting COVID-19 in order to help keep the rest of us safe. The U.S. government has been working closely with the government of Angola to support these efforts. Fighting the COVID-19 pandemic is crucial to protect lives and keep Angolan citizens healthy. And as we all know, a healthy population is fundamental to a productive workforce and a growing economy. That's why the United States government has been committed to improving the health of Angolans for nearly 20 years, and our support has not wavered during the COVID-19 pandemic. The United States has committed more than $3.5 million to support the Angolan government response to the COVID-19 outbreak. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and USAID are providing technical assistance to the government of Angola centered on strengthening laboratory operations, preventing infection and control in health facilities, disease surveillance, and supply chain management. Both agencies are also assisting in the procurement of essential COVID-19 commodities for Angola. In addition, the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, known as PEPFAR, is training Ministry of Health staff working in health facility laboratories on proper use of biosafety techniques. This training assists in both the fight against HIV/AIDS and the fight against the PEPFAR, or against the COVID pandemic. I'd also like to commend the important work that the Angolan government has been doing over the past years to improve the business environment. The fight against corruption, revitalizing the oil and gas sector, and diversifying and privatizing the economy have been the Angolan government's top priorities. We applaud them for those. In the electric power sector, the U.S. government's Power Africa program continues to support the African Development Bank's $500 million loan to the Angolan government to expand energy access and efficiency. The AFDB project will link Angola's 3 power grids by building over 300 kilometers of transmission lines, install more than 1 million prepaid electric meters, and will increase the sustainability of Angola's power sector through new business and management practices. This in turn will provide the necessary infrastructure to develop and diversify Angola's economy. The United States has also been Angola's largest demining donor and has invested more than $134 million to clear and destroy landmines and unexploded ordnance. Making land free of landmines will, in addition to reducing the risk of accidents, death, and injuries, will pave the way to help Angola take advantage of the almost 58 million hectares available for agricultural development, including 35 million hectares of arable land, as well as develop the burgeoning ecotourism industry. These are 2 top priorities for the Lorenzo administration. The U.S. government stands by Angola to assist the country in achieving its goals to transform the economy and create more opportunities for both Angolan and U.S. companies, and above all, to improve the lives of the Angolan and American people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Greg Singers, Charles Affairs of the United States Embassy in Angola. The next speech goes to Mr. Victor Fernandez, Minister of Industry and Commerce of the Angolan Republic. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please for the speech of the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Victor Fernandez.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I will address in English just for 2 words to say that I was misled in terms of the timing to start the meeting because I have a different program. That's why it seems that I was late, but I wasn't, because in my program I should be here at 4 o'clock. E como é evento oficial, eu tenho que falar em português e, portanto, eu começo por saudar o excelentíssimo secretário adjunto do Comércio para os Mercados Globais e diretor-geral para o Comércio Exterior do Departamento de Comércio dos Estados Unidos da América, o Sr. Sept, excelentíssimo embaixador extraordinário e plenipotenciário da República de Angola nos Estados Unidos da América, Dr. Joaquim Espírito Santo, excelentíssimo encarregado de negócios da Embaixada dos Estados Unidos da América, o Sr. Greg Segas, excelentíssimo Presidente do Conselho de Administração da Agência de Investimento Privado e Promoção das Exportações de Angola, Engenheiro Vista Silva, distinto Presidente da Câmara de Comércio e Indústria Angola, Estados Unidos, Dr. Coutinho, distintos convidados, minhas senhoras e meus senhores. É com muito agrado que tomo a palavra neste evento de capital importância para o país, no momento em que decorrem reformas profundas com vista à melhoria da nossa situação socioeconómica. Não obstante as limitações impostas no que respeita à organização de eventos desta magnitude, face à pandemia do Covid-19, estamos aqui presentes e confiantes nos resultados deste seminário, considerando a amplitude das necessidades de instituições, quer públicas como privadas, em relação a esta temática. O nosso país enfrenta atualmente desafios múltiplos que vão desde a diversificação da economia à garantia de estabilidade macroeconómica e financeira, no momento em que se aproxima a efetivação do processo de graduação de Angola, com Angola a sair da categoria do país menos avançado para país de rendimento médio. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, as reformas em curso não teriam o mesmo efeito e/ou alcance se não fossem acompanhadas do conhecimento sobre as oportunidades decorrentes da relação institucional de caráter financeiro, com respaldo na captação de investimentos para o país, bem como a execução exitosa de projetos estruturantes. O seminário que hoje se realiza visa essencialmente a capacitação de quadros angolanos do setor público e privado sobre a abrangência do trabalho do Exim Bank dos Estados Unidos da América, com enfoque nas regras e procedimentos a serem cumpridos para a concessão de financiamentos. Sentimos-nos regozijados por contarmos com o apoio do governo americano, através da sua embaixada em Angola, para o aprofundamento das relações de cooperação entre os dois países, que, sem sombra de dúvidas, estão muito bem encaminhadas e certamente nos levarão a bom porto. A atividade que hoje presenciamos reveste-se de importância capital se tivermos em atenção a execução do Programa de Apoio à Produção, Diversificação das Exportações e Substituição das Importações, o PRODESI, que visa o fomento da produção e a diversificação dessas exportações e, naturalmente, o papel do setor privado como alavanca para o desenvolvimento socioeconómico, bem como a necessidade de captação de investimentos multifacetados. Sendo o Exim Bank uma agência oficial de crédito à exportação dos Estados Unidos da América, na dimensão em que é caracterizada, acreditamos ser possível o apoio desta instituição financeira na concretização e materialização de financiamentos de projetos americanos para o nosso país. Sabemos da importância significativa para os Estados Unidos da América e para as instituições deste país parceiro a observância da Lei Americana Anticorrupção no Exterior, FCPA na sigla inglesa, pelo que não é demais referir que o governo angolano encontra-se disponível para colaborar com as instituições americanas com vista ao aprofundamento da cooperação no que toca às melhores práticas sobre o FCPA, alinhadas, aliás, com o combate à corrupção, que é uma das linhas de força do Programa de Ações do nosso Executivo. É ainda importante referir que o governo angolano vem já colaborando com os Estados Unidos da América no que toca às normas técnicas e boas práticas regulamentares, matéria que pretendemos ver cada vez mais aprofundada, tendo em conta o seu impacto direto no aumento do volume das exportações angolanas para o mercado americano e não só, aliando-se nesta medida ao PRODESI. Finalmente, é com satisfação que anuncio estar em curso conversações avançadas com a Embaixada dos Estados Unidos, no sentido de ser criado um roteiro que vai permitir que empresas americanas dos mais diversos ramos de atividade, por si mesmas ou em parceria com empresas angolanas, se possam instalar no mercado angolano, facilitando assim a exportação dos seus produtos para a região e o continente. Por outro lado, o referido roteiro permitirá também que empresas angolanas possam exportar produtos diversos para o mercado americano, observadas naturalmente as normas técnicas exigidas. Fazemos votos que o presente evento sirva de catalisador para a obtenção de financiamentos do Exim Bank dos Estados Unidos da América para alavancar projetos públicos e privados no nosso país. O meu muito obrigado e um bem-aja a todos.
After the speech of the Minister, His Excellency the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Mr. Victor Fernandes, it's time to call the President of AIPEX, Engineer Antonio Henriques da Silva, to take his place on the chair in the stage just for the moment to come. I will call as well Mr. Everett Wakai. Mr. Wakai is the Senior Commercial Officer at the U.S. Foreign Commercial Service at U.S. Embassy in Angola. And this is the moment for the signing of the participatory agreement between AIPEX and SelectUSA. Well, I'll call Mr. Everett Wakai. We have a speech, and then we will move forward according to our program.
Muito obrigado pela introdução e muito boa tarde a todos e bom dia a todos em Washington. Antes de começar, gostaria de agradecer ao Ministro Victor Fernandes do Ministério da Indústria e Comércio e também ao Presidente do Conselho de Administração, o Sr. António Henriques da Silva, pelo seu apoio e compromisso com o evento de hoje e para ajudar a promover o maior comércio e investimento bilateral. Gostaria também de agradecer, em particular, ao Sr. Adelino da Porta e Guarda-Chave do Ministério da Indústria e Comércio, também como a Sra. Sandra Dias e ao Sr. Kelly Guimarães da AIPEX, pelo seu dinamismo e empenho para desenvolver esse evento. Aos senhores Ministro Victor Fernandes e António Henriques da Silva, vocês têm uma ótima equipa com quem podemos contar e acredito que eles representam uma vontade e uma capacidade para poder e querer colaborar com os Estados Unidos. Gostaria também de dar as boas-vindas à senhora Tina Bollard, SelectUSA, diretora executiva, que está aqui junto conosco a nós hoje no vídeo de Washington. E gostaria de dar um enorme elogio aos meus colegas Sept, da Embaixada dos Estados Unidos, e também ao Sr. Aaron Kirsch, especialista comercial do Departamento de Comércio em Washington, pelo seu trabalho nesse evento. Agora, gostaria de falar um pouco sobre as origens do acordo de cooperação de hoje. O presidente António Henriques da Silva e eu nos encontramos há quase 3 anos num evento de uma delegação de congressistas americana. E durante esse evento conversamos sobre como poderíamos impulsionar o comércio e o investimento entre nossos países. E logo continuamos a encontrar-nos durante eventos, durante as visitas de alto nível dos Estados Unidos aqui em Angola, e continuamos essas conversas. Não sei se o Sr. António Henrique se lembra de todas essas conversas sobre as normas técnicas e boas práticas regulatórias que o senhor ministro acaba de mencionar. Já estamos a avançar nessa área, certo? E logo encontramos, depois, já posteriormente, facilitamos uma visita do então secretário de Estado, Sérgio dos Santos, que agora é o ministro de Economia, uma visita a Washington para assistir à cimeira do SelectUSA em Washington em 2019. E durante essa visita, organizamos várias reuniões com líderes seniors do Departamento do Comércio. E durante essas visitas e reuniões, tem disputado a possibilidade de cooperar entre Estados Unidos e Angola na área de investimentos e comércio. Logo depois, nossos dois governos encontramos em Maputo durante a cimeira empresarial África-Estados Unidos. E lá, nossos líderes, altos funcionários do Ministério do Comércio de Angola, AIPEX, do Departamento de Comércio, começamos a falar sobre como poderíamos formalizar esse acordo para colaborar na área de investimento privado. Então, a cerimônia da assinatura de hoje é nossa expressão de interesse mútuo em cooperação, fruto dessas conversas inúmeras. E essas visitas de alto nível e reuniões são importantes para poder continuar a fortalecer as relações entre os países. Com isso, gostaria de passar a palavra ao presidente Antônio Henrique da Silva.
Boa tarde a todos. Excelência, Sr. Ministro da Indústria e Comércio da República de Angola, Engenheiro Vítor Francisco dos Santos Fernandes, Excelência, Sr. Secretário Adjunto do Comércio para os Mercados Globais, Jan Sept, Excelência, Sr. Embaixador da República de Angola nos Estados Unidos, Joaquim Espírito Santos, Excelentíssimo Sr. Encarregado de Negócios da Embaixada dos Estados Unidos em Luanda, Greg Segas, Excelentíssimo Sr. Rick Angiuoni, Diretor para a África do Exim Bank, Excelentíssimo Dr. Pedro Godinho, Presidente da Câmara de Comércio e Indústria Angola, Estados Unidos da América, Excelentíssimos colegas membros do Conselho de Administração da AIPEX, prezados convidados, minhas senhoras e meus senhores. Antes de mais, também agradecer pelas palavras que foram aqui proferidas a favor da parte angolana, em especial do Ministério da Indústria e Comércio e da AIPEX. Nós muito agradecemos em reconhecimento do trabalho que temos estado a efetuar, e em especial também das nossas equipas. É com enorme satisfação e esperança num futuro de prosperidade e desenvolvimento socioeconómico para o nosso país, que em nome e no papel do Presidente da Agência de Investimento Privado e Promoção das Exportações da AIPEX, dirijo-me aos presentes nesta magna sessão que hoje assinala mais um marco importante das relações comerciais entre Angola e os Estados Unidos. O reconhecimento do Estado angolano pelo governo dos Estados Unidos da América, no princípio dos anos 90, foi um passo importante para aquela que sempre se observou por ser uma ligação que se foi consolidando no tempo, quer em termos sociais, culturais, políticos e económicos. Desde então, a República de Angola e os Estados Unidos têm trabalhado muito no fortalecimento desta cooperação através de vários meios e acordos válidos no âmbito das relações internacionais. Através desta relação, Angola tem beneficiado bastante com a liderança económica mundial dos Estados Unidos em diversos setores, realçando aqui a sua forte intervenção no setor petrolífero, com empresas americanas liderando o setor em África e no mundo, contribuindo para alavancar de ambas as economias. Além disso, Angola tem recebido também muitos apoios, quer em termos de linhas de financiamento
como no fomento de setores estratégicos que visam a diversificação da nossa economia e o fortalecimento das nossas instituições, tais como na capacitação do setor empresarial, na atribuição de bolsas de estudos e de programas de formação para angolanos estudarem em universidades dos Estados Unidos, na saúde, nos transportes, no fortalecimento da democracia, entre outras áreas. O Exim, através dos seus mecanismos de financiamento, tem apoiado o comércio entre os Estados Unidos e outros países, incluindo Angola, enquadrado em vários memorandos assinados com o nosso governo. Estes financiamentos têm beneficiado vários setores econômicos, incluindo energia, infraestrutura, ferrovias e estradas, mineração, telecomunicações, agricultura, equipamentos para a construção e para o ambiente, bem como projetos de água e saneamento. O acordo que iremos hoje celebrar entre a Agência para o Investimento Privado e Promoção das Exportações de Angola, AIPEX, e o SelectUSA, um programa de mercados globais que faz parte da Administração do Comércio Internacional do Ministério do Comércio dos Estados Unidos e que conta com a parceria da Câmara do Comércio Angola, Estados Unidos, AmCham, tem elevada importância e é resultado das oportunidades de negócios que os empresários de ambos os países identificaram e que se pretende que sejam mais exploradas em todas as vertentes, de forma a aumentar a balança comercial entre os dois países através de fortes parcerias no setor privado. Por meio deste acordo, a AIPEX e a SelectUSA pretendem cooperar, fornecer o apoio adequado aos investidores angolanos e norte-americanos e organizações de desenvolvimento econômico de ambos os países, para entrarem em contato com especialistas em investimentos e indústria em ambos os países, com vista a facilitar o investimento direto estrangeiro, com o objetivo de expandir o comércio bilateral e da cooperação econômica. Este acordo de cooperação será por um período de 2 anos, automaticamente renováveis, ou por períodos semelhantes, a partir da data da sua entrada em vigor. Reconhecemos que uma das condições que fará com que este acordo tenha o sucesso pretendido é a melhoria do ambiente de negócios, que permite que as parcerias e os investimentos se realizem com a máxima transparência possível. Neste âmbito, o governo angolano está empenhado seriamente na melhoria do ambiente de negócios em Angola. Há uma forte campanha de combate à corrupção e o aumento da transparência nas nossas instituições públicas. Do mesmo modo, a janela única de investimento aprovada recentemente pelo Executivo angolano tem como objetivo facilitar a realização de negócios e a implementação dos projetos aprovados em Angola, oferecendo celeridade e rapidez no seu tratamento, reduzindo a burocracia e os processos demorosos que têm sido um grande transtorno para os investidores em Angola. Antes de terminar, gostaria de aproveitar a oportunidade para desejar ao povo americano forte recuperação dos males causados pela Covid-19, pois os Estados Unidos da América é um dos países com maior taxa de infecção da pandemia da Covid-19, até agora com mais de 6 milhões de infectados e mais de 190 mil mortes, de acordo com os dados oficiais da OMS. Esta pandemia está a destruir a economia mundial e agora, mais do que nunca, é hora de fortalecer os laços para juntos enfrentarmos os seus efeitos nocivos. Números oficiais indicam que mais de 600 milhões de pessoas passaram para o desemprego desde o início da pandemia no mundo inteiro. Não podia deixar de realçar aqui o importante papel que a direção da Câmara do Comércio e Indústria Angola, Estados Unidos da América, tem desempenhado no fomento de ações que visam a dinamização das atividades comerciais entre os dois países. O nosso apelo vai para que olhem para além do setor petrolífero, pois Angola tem, neste momento, a desafiante tarefa de diversificar a sua economia pelo seu potencial em termos de recursos, através da aposta nos seguintes setores prioritários: agricultura, indústria, agropecuária, hotelaria, turismo, tecnologia de informação e comunicação, educação e investigação científica, entre outras áreas. Muito obrigado.
We would like to call Mr. Everett Lakai to introduce Mr. Ian.
Muito obrigado ao Sr. Antonio Enrique da Silva pelas palavras. I would now like to introduce one of our most senior commerce officials responsible for international trade, Assistant Secretary for Global Markets and Director General for the U.S. and Foreign Commercial Service at the U.S. Department of Commerce. Mr. Ian Sept oversees approximately 1,400 trade and investment professionals based in more than 110 offices in the U.S. and over 70 offices in over 70 countries around the world. In this capacity, he is quite busy, working generally with numerous time zones and traveling around the globe to promote U.S. businesses and support the creation of U.S. jobs. So we're extremely fortunate to have him today here with us, even though he's in Washington, dedicated solely to Angola, United States. And while he has not yet visited Angola, he is no stranger to Angola. He has already met with several senior level government officials here in Angola, including the chairman of the board of Senegal, as well as the Secretary of State of the Ministry of Energy and Water, primarily to explore how our two countries can continue to develop and strengthen our trade and investment relationship. So I hope Mr. Minister Victor Fernandez and Chairman Antonio Enrique da Silva, that you will both personally welcome him here as soon as his schedule allows him to come to Angola, so that we can build on the signing ceremony of today and strengthen the U.S.-Angola trade and investment relationship. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Assistant Secretary Ian Sept.
Well, thank you, Everett. Thank you for your kind words. Ceremony celebrates milestone agreement between the agency and private investment export promotion, AIPEX-SelectUSA. I am honored for the opportunity to address such a distinguished group of business and government leaders from our two great nations. Thank you to all the participants, and especially to our Senior Commercial Officer, Everett, and Executive Director of SelectUSA, Dina Beaumont. I would also like to thank Minister Victor Fernandez, Chairman Antonio Enrique da Silva, President Pedro Goginayo, and Chargé d'Affaires Greg Sagas for their leadership in promoting trade and investment between our two great countries. And as Everett mentioned, I look forward to the opportunity to visit you in Angola so that we can continue to develop our bilateral trade and investment relationship. I very much look forward to joining you. Let me begin by saying that I'm delighted to hear Minister Fernandez reaffirm his support for cooperation with the United States on strengthening the enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, enhancing technical standards, and promoting good regulatory practices that advance bilateral trade and investment. We look forward to working closely with you and Angolan public and private sector stakeholders on these important topics. Today, we recognize many years of friendship, mutual respect, and economic partnership that has been built between Angola and the United States over the past several decades. As a result of this friendship, Angola is one of the United States' top trading partners in sub-Saharan Africa. Angola is also one of the United States' 3 strategic partners in the region. From today forward, I expect that this milestone agreement between AIPEX and SelectUSA will lay the groundwork for our countries to create new and more extensive investment opportunities in both the U.S. and Angola. The United States' commitment to Angola and the African continent as a whole remains strong. We are carrying out that commitment through an initiative called Prosper Africa, which is designed to substantially increase two-way trade and investment between the United States and Africa. By connecting U.S. and African companies with new trade and investment opportunities, we create jobs, drive shared economic growth, and raise the standard of living for both American and Angolan citizens. What we are doing here today is exactly the type of collaboration and vision through the Prosper Africa initiative, a mutually beneficial and reciprocal trade and investment relationship designed to spur economic growth and create jobs at home. Now that we formalize our investment partnership and our promotion activities, I would like to highlight the returns on the best practices we will be sharing with AIPEX with a few key points on the work of SelectUSA. Through SelectUSA's assistance to thousands of clients, including economic development organizations, domestic firms, and international companies, the program has facilitated more than $78 billion in client-verified investment, which supports more than 95,000 jobs across the United States. In 2019, SelectUSA assisted more than 6,300 clients from 50 U.S. states and territories and 90 global markets. These clients announced 507 greenfield investment projects in 45 U.S. states and territories, accounting for 28.9% of all greenfield projects in the United States. I am proud to share these results with you because they demonstrate what is possible when pairing talented investment professionals with the right tools and best practices. SelectUSA leadership looks forward to collaborating with AIPEX, not only to share what has delivered results for the United States, but also to learn from talented professionals at AIPEX. One best practice I can share with you today is the ability of the U.S. government to work in a collaborative and coordinated fashion to provide the right tools that increase the competitiveness of American firms globally. One primary example is the ongoing collaboration between the United States Department of Commerce and the U.S. Exim Bank. So I am delighted that the Director for Africa at Exim Bank, Mr. Rick Angiuoni, will be sharing more details related to Exim Bank and its tools to finance the exports of U.S. goods and services, which can serve to develop and diversify the Angolan economy. I very much look forward to seeing this MOU, this agreement, materialize into great results for both of our nations. Collectively, I know our team, a team that works and a team that delivers, will ensure full implementation of this agreement between our two great countries. Estamos juntos. Obrigado.
Okay. I will begin. Hello, everyone. Good morning to my colleagues in Washington, D.C. Good afternoon to my colleagues and our wonderful friends in Angola. Good afternoon. It is very good to be with you here today. I want to start by recognizing Your Excellency, the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Victor Fernandez, on this very special occasion. I would also like to recognize the U.S. team at our embassy in Angola, the Charge d'Affaires, Greg Segas. Would like to also recognize Everett Wakai with the Foreign Commercial Service there on today's signing. Would also like to recognize the Honorable Ian Stepp, the Director General of the Foreign and Commercial Service, on this wonderful occasion once again. Would also like to acknowledge Ambassador Joaquim Espirito Santo, who I've had the pleasure of meeting at several Angolan events here in Washington, D.C. Would also like to recognize Honorable Pedro Godinho, President of AmCham-Angola, and the Honorable Antonio da Silva, Chairman of the Board of AIPEX, on the occasion of this signing between SelectUSA and AIPEX. Congratulations to you both and to both organizations. I would also like to acknowledge all of the esteemed participants there in the audience today. It is a pleasure to join you. My name is Jamal Ware. I am the Senior Advisor to the Chairman of the Export-Import Bank of the United States, Kimberly Reed. As many of you know, last year Exim signed a very large MOU with the Ministry of Finance that was signed by Chairman Reed. And I'm pleased to say that earlier this year, I joined Chairman Reed when she had bilateral discussions with Minister Davies over how Exim and Angola can help build out this MOU, bringing in great U.S. Goods and services and products to connect them with the economy in Angola, which we believe will help strengthen and build out opportunities there in Angola. Today, with the signing of this MOU, we highlight another example of U.S.-Angola cooperation, and I commend my colleagues once again from Commerce on this signing. This year has been challenging with COVID-19 that has affected all of us. I'm sure, like many of my colleagues here in D.C., I would love to be there in LUANDA with you all in person for this wonderful occasion. But we are working our way through it and learning how to connect to one another in this digital space now. Our people and our economies have suffered because of COVID-19, and it has changed the way that we do the way we do business, as demonstrated once again by the fact that we are meeting virtually. Chairman Reed did want to be with you all here today. She wanted to participate in this event, but at the last minute, she did get called for a trip overseas that necessitated changing her schedule. On behalf of Chairman Reed, I wish to congratulate everyone and send her best wishes and express the pride that she feels at how the United States and Angola are working together. We are very excited about the opportunities that we see in Angola. Under the leadership of President Lourenço, Angola is a country that is poised for a new era of growth, and under the leadership of President Trump with his Prosper Africa initiative, we at Exim are pleased to partner in helping creating these dynamic opportunities to boost job creation in the United States and in Angola. Especially now, at a time when Angola is undertaking major structural reform, we know that you are eager to build upon the quality foundation so that your economy can flourish. We are convinced that reliable American-made products will drive economic growth and power the Angolan economy to thrive and to diversify. We are prepared to support Angola's investments in oil and gas, in power, aviation, rail and other infrastructure and transportation, medical equipment, and in agriculture. Based on the strong presence of my USG colleagues here today, as well as representatives from Angola, we do feel that there is a strong and dynamic bond between the people of Angola and the people of the United States. Angola is an important partner to the U.S., and we look forward to working with you. Again, I want to congratulate you on today's signing. And I will now recognize my colleague, who is one of Angola's strongest friends and supporters here at Exim, Rick Angiuoni. Thank you for having me. Obrigado.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamal. Boa tarde aos meus amigos em Angola. And I have many friends in Angola. And in Washington, Angola also has many, many friends. I wish I were there, but seeing you virtually is just as good. Today, just as much as I am making the case for Exim Bank and US exports, I'm also making a case for Prosper Africa to increase two-way trade and investments, which is very much aligned with AIPEX in promoting investments in the private sector in Angola. But I'm also making a case for Angola. I believe in Angola, and no country has achieved so much in so little time. As you well know, 20 years ago, the Angolan economy was only $10 billion, and now the Angolan economy is over 100 billion. Of course, as Jamal has noted, this has been a difficult year for the world and for both of our countries. But tomorrow, I can assure you, will be a new day. My presentation is supposed to be a workshop, so I hope I'm not going to be boring. But as you well know, banking is very simple. Banking is about taking risk and lending money. And I can tell you that Angola has some great bankers, starting with your governor of the central bank, whom I know, Jose Massano, as well as some of the bankers that are there in the room that I know quite well. From BNI, of course, Joaquim Nunes. From BIC, Hugo Teles. From Standard Bank, Luis Teles. So what I will do today, okay, I will speak a little bit about Exim Bank. Next page, please. Next page. I guess it's not working. So I will speak about Exim Bank. Exim Bank is the, here we go. So Exim Bank is the finance agency of the US government, and our mission is to finance US exports. Our balance sheet is quite large. We have a $135 billion balance sheet. In Angola, we have been financing exports for a very long time, almost 80 years. In fact, I am really proud to tell you, next slide please, that the first transaction in Angola was done in 1942. This was the first transaction on the African continent. And it's always good to know a little bit about history to show the commitment of the United States to Angola. So starting in 1942, through 2019, and even this year, we're considering transactions for Angola. But as you can see, the first transaction in 1942, Exim Bank was founded in 1934, and that transaction was to finance the port infrastructure in Cabinda. Then in 1956, we supported another transactions. In the 1960s and the 1970s, we supported the rail infrastructure in Angola. In the 1980s, we started building the energy backbone for Angola, for Sonangol. And again, in 2000, we started providing facilities for the Angolan banking sector. In 2011, I'm very proud of all the work that we did for the support of Boeing and TAG Airlines. Then in 2014, we signed a very large MOU with Angola, a $1 billion MOU. Unfortunately, then in 2015, our authorization lapsed, and so we were not fully operational for a few years. But with Chairman Reid, back in 2019, we signed one of the largest MOU in support of the Lorenzo administration and what he was trying to do in terms of diversifying and privatizing the economy in Angola. And we hope that, as Jamal has noted, we hope to utilize this financing for Angola. Next slide, please. If we look at trade, obviously you could see that trade has gone down significantly over the last few years. But again, as Ian Staff has noted, and as Jamal has noted, we hope to change all of that with Prosper Africa. Next slide, please. And if we look at 2019, our exports have come down, but still it's quite significant, and that's why Angola is an important market for the U.S. It is the sixth largest destination market in sub-Saharan Africa with over $500 million. But again, with the number of transactions that we're seeing and that we're considering right now, we hope to change and increase the amount of U.S. exports to Angola. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now I will speak a little bit about the tools that Exim Bank can use in support of Angola. Our financing programs can be largely divided between our short-term programs and our medium and long-term programs. And in Angola, we have used both. Our short-term programs basically use credit insurance, whereas our medium and long-term programs, in this case, we use guarantees and we use direct loans. Next slide. So we have some basic policies, and to make it very simple, there are three basic policies that Angola must be aware of, and those are our 3 C's of Exim Bank: our cover policy, our content, and credit worthiness. Our cover policy is very simple. We must be open in the country, and we are open in Angola. Content, we finance primarily made in USA, but we also support local costs in some cases. And last but not least, the underlying transaction must be creditworthy because we care about debt sustainability. Next slide. So in synthesis, basically, we look at primarily 3 types of borrowing structures: when we lend to corporate entities, when we lend to financial institutions, and when we lend to the sovereign. So we always look at the primary source of repayment. Banking, as I've said, it's about taking risk and it's about lending money, and bankers obviously expect to be repaid. So we look at the primary source of repayment. The primary source of repayment could be a corporate entity, or it could be a financial institution, or it could be a sovereign, in this case, the government of Angola through the Ministry of Finance. Next slide. And the repayment terms of our support can go anywhere from 1 year to 18 years. Obviously, for project financing transactions, like in support of renewable energy, for example, we could go out to 18 years. For consumer items, for example, for financing of commodities, then we use our insurance programs and we provide short-term financing. Next slide. And so basically, those are the type of programs we have. We have, starting with pre-export financing, to our short-term credit insurance programs, through our medium-term financing programs, and then to our long-term buyer and project finance transactions. Now I will describe a few of these transactions on how we have actually done these transactions in Angola. Next slide. So in this case, very proud of having supported a transaction for a great company out of Wisconsin, Oshkosh. Oshkosh provides and manufactures fire trucks. In this case, Inama purchased fire trucks from Oshkosh, and we supported an Angolan bank by ensuring the letter of credit that was utilized as the payment instrument to pay Oshkosh. Next slide. Next slide. So, so basically the process, what I'll be describing now, a little bit of how Angola can access our financing programs. And this process basically deals with medium and long-term financing, where we have used most of the Exim Bank financing in the past with Angola. And basically, it's a very simple process, and it's basically 5 steps. It starts with an export contract. There has to be a contract between a U.S. exporter and an Angolan importer. Once that is done, we enter into a financing arrangement where a loan has to be documented. Then the application process is, if it's a guarantee, the application is submitted by a lender to Exim Bank. In the case of a direct loan, the application is submitted by the borrower to Exim Bank. In step 4, we go all through the approval process, and we do some due diligence. And then in step 5, Exim Bank ultimately approves a transaction. Next slide. So if we look at the direct loan, it's a fairly simple process again. In this case, it is a direct loan directly from Exim Bank to an Angolan borrower. And as I have indicated, under a direct loan, it is the Angolan borrower that applies to Exim Bank. Next slide. And under the direct loan, this is where we lend directly. I'm not quite sure if you could see the interest rates, but the interest rates obviously are quite low, and they're expected to be low. So the interest rates are quite competitive. You could see that for an 18-year loan, we could provide financing at 1.85%. For a 10-year loan, our financing could be 1.46%. That's obviously in dollars, and that's fixed. Obviously, we would also charge a premium on that, but even when considering the premium compared to what Angola currently borrows at or could borrow at in the international markets, that's quite competitive. Next slide. In this case, this type of transaction under the loan guarantee program, this is how we have used in finance. This is the structure that we have used in financing TAG, for example. In the case of aircraft financing, only the guarantee program is used. When we use the guarantee program, we have a lender that provides financing, and Exim Bank guarantees the lender. The interest rates are negotiated between the lender and the borrower, but the guarantee lender has the backing of the full fit and credit of the U.S. government by way of the Exim Bank's guarantee. And once again, the cost of financing is extremely competitive. Next slide. Next slide. Now we're getting into some of the most interesting transactions and much more complicated transactions, some transactions which are kind of project finance. And I'm pleased to say that we are currently looking at a number of projects in Angola where we hope to utilize some of these structures. This is basically for private sector investments where they will be utilizing U.S. goods and services. And we are looking at some transactions in the energy sector, in the infrastructure sector. So this is much more complicated. It will not rely on a sovereign on a sovereign guarantee, but it will rely on offtake agreements and mitigating the various risks of the transaction. And also, we will do due diligence on the amount of sponsor support to the project. This is project finance that we hope to do a number of transactions in Angola in the area of project finance. Next slide. And this is basically our country limitation schedule. As I have mentioned, we are open across the sector of short, medium, and long term for the public sector. And we hope to remain open in Angola. Next slide, please. And last but not least, I mean, we do see great opportunities in Angola. As I have mentioned, we are in the process of considering a number of interesting transactions in Angola, in the energy sector, in telecom, in infrastructure, in transportation. My hope is that over the next several months, we can continue our due diligence and look for possible approval of some of these transactions. Again, thank you very much. Muy obrigado. And I hope I can answer some questions now. Thank you.
With the ceremony.
Hello? Hello?